All right, hello and welcome everyone to the Talk, Text and Learn for Kindergarten webinar. My name is Beth Yates and I'm the Children's Consultant from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. And I will be your host and the official question moderator today, although our presenters will help with that too. Our presenters today are both from the Ypsilanti District Library in Michigan. We've got Jody Kronke, Head of Youth Services, and Angie Martin Schwarzy, Talk Program Assistant. And I apologize if I said your names incorrectly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. To register for other webinars and other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library, and it's under Services for Libraries. This session is 1 hour, so you are eligible to receive 1 LEU for this presentation. If you're watching a recording of this webinar, instructions on how to obtain your LEU are in the video's description on YouTube. Or you can find those instructions on ISL's continuing education site under LEU policies. But in short, when you watch a recording, your director or someone in HR should create a certificate for you, as they're the ones who can verify that you watched. One more note, I think most of you are from Indiana, but a couple folks may be here from other states, or they may have stumbled upon the recording on ISL's website. So just please be aware that the content discussed today, as of November 2nd, 2022, is for a program that is currently only available in Michigan and Indiana. It may expand in the future, so we're happy to have you here to learn about it, but please do be aware that you won't be able to access this program right now unless you're in Indiana or Michigan. Okay, I think we are ready to get started. So again, our presenters today are from the Ypsilanti District Library in Michigan, Jody Kronke, Head of Youth Services, and Angie Martin Schwarzy, Talk Program Assistant. So please take it away, Jody and Angie.
Thank you so much for having us. So today we're going to talk about Text and Learn for Kindergarten. The acronym is TALK, and it is an IMLS National Leadership project. Oops. We're going to go over what TALK is, how it was developed, how caregivers use it, and then how libraries use it. So to get started on what it is and why we developed it, TALK is basically a database of 650 activity suggestions that are they're developmentally leveled from the time a child is born until they turn 6. And over the course of those 6 years, the parent of the child receives 2 messages per week based on their child's birth date. In addition, if they live near a library that's participating, they will receive up to 2 messages per month from their local library. So why TALK? We are from Ypsilanti. It is our district library serves about 84,000 people. The city of Ypsilanti itself is about 35,000. And our school districts are struggling. There are a lot of charter schools in Michigan. We are at one point, one of the school districts was under state guidance because of their test scores. There were other issues in Michigan with reading scores, and the state was just passing a read by grade 3 law. And of course, at the library, we're concerned about literacy. We're wondering what we can do to support parents when they are getting their kids ready for school. So we know that we're already doing a lot at Storytime, but what about all the people we don't see? So one of our staff members had gone to ALA and saw that the Brooklyn Public Library was sending text messages with early literacy suggestions to parents. And our director had also seen that the state of Colorado was doing a similar statewide program. And so we started to talk about what we could do, because we knew most parents have a phone that receives text messages. They can get these messages anytime. They have tiny bits of information, so it's not an overwhelming amount of content. And we could share some of our Every Child Ready to Read tips that we give at Storytime via text message. So we started looking into funding and doing a lot more research. And we looked at other programs that were already being offered, and we knew there was research to support that if parents engage more in these positive back and forth interactions with their young child, it does improve a child's school readiness and then their future success in school. And so some of our research that we did was looking at these other statewide programs. There was a text messaging program used by a city to send event notifications, which is how we developed the part of the program that allows libraries to send their event notices. We looked at others that were providing health tips for babies, for parents with newborns, and these other library programs, the kind of content they were sharing, as well as the university research to back up what was happening. And with all of that, we came up with our own system called Talk, and we were able to secure funding to start that through an LSTA grant that was administered by the Library of Michigan. That was about 5 years ago. So we developed this program, and the way it works is that a parent might see a short code, which is a 5-digit phone number, on advertising anywhere in the community. So Angie is going to be showing you some examples of some of these promotional materials, but they all have this call to action to text the word talk to 75547. And if a parent does that, they are prompted in a series of messages to respond. And it's mostly anonymous. They don't have to put in any personal information, but they have to include their child's birth date, because that places them on this continuum of messages that then progress and become gradually more difficult until the child ages out when they graduate at age 6. And they also have to put in their zip code so that a library can send them service announcements based on their location. Other than that, the only other piece of information is whether they want to have the messages in English or Spanish. So that's one way that they sign up and end up on this continuum of messages that automatically send. The other way is through a web form. And anybody all parents in Michigan and Indiana right now can sign up for this service, whether their library is offering it or not. They can sign up and get the text messages. And as you see, the same, if they fill out this form, it's the same bits of information. So their language, phone number, you can have up to 2 children participating, and then the zip code. If they use the web form, they do have to authenticate through their phone within 4 hours. The messages that they get, the activity suggestions, they're, like I said, they're tailored to the child's developmental level. They don't require many special materials. It's often something that can be done during the day, whether you're grocery shopping or doing the laundry, or with things that you have around the house anyway. And there are also links that go to the website that I showed you. So if you want to visit this website later and look at it in more detail, you can see that there are book lists and songs, and we have the lyrics and some videos and finger plays with the motions, and then a few other activities. And so all of those are linked to within the messages. So most of the messages don't need a link, but if there is extra content that's helpful for parents, then it's on that website. And we had experts and parents in our community help us get these, all of this content prepared and into shape to send out. So the second type of message are the library event notifications, and this is just an example. So in this case, we were inviting parents to attend theater for little ones, and we give the location and a shortened URL to our website. During COVID, we've also done, because we weren't doing events, we were doing service announcements to let parents know about other resources that we have at the library, such as play kits or the book lists and things like that. So it's up to the libraries to decide what kind of content they want to share in these, but they can share up to 2 messages per month with the users in their service area zip codes. And again, these were written in Washtenaw County, where we are. So we're located near Ann Arbor, about 15 minutes from Ann Arbor, about 30 minutes from Detroit. Our library was the largest library, and so we were leading the project, but we had 4 other libraries involved in that initial stage of development, and they were helping us write the messages. We had our Washtenaw literacy experts review them. They are people who work as tutors with adults that are learning English or learning to read. And so they reviewed all the text messages to make sure that the vocabulary we were using was accessible to people. We had parents at Head Start and other places review the content to make sure it was accessible and that they had the supplies at home that were being asked for them to use in the activity suggestions, that the messages were culturally sensitive, that we were, and then High Scope, which develops the curriculum for about half of the Head Starts in the US. They are based in Ypsilanti, and their curriculum specialists were the ones to help us get all the content in order developmentally. We also, both in the first segment of the grant and then the current grant, we've had focus groups of parents who gave a lot of feedback, and that helped us make improvements and move forward with the project. The messages originally were focusing on language and literacy, but as we had feedback from parents, we expanded that, and we touch on a lot of different school readiness types of skills. Every message, because it's based on Every Child Ready to Read, starts with one of the 5 practices. So every message starts with read, write, sing, talk, or play. So it reflects what you're already doing in the library and at your story times. But in addition, then it gives like a specific activity that you can do to build that particular type of skill. So what makes it unique? Because I said that we looked at other programs. 2 of the biggest programs in the country are the Ready 4K, which was the one out of Stanford that the research is based on, that these messages do work. And if they change parent behavior, then it's improving school readiness. That is currently available through schools and classrooms. So it's a little bit different than our program. And the other one is Bright by Text, which was started in Colorado. And some organizations are subscribing to that and promoting it in communities. But Talk, because it's based on Every Child Ready to Read, it's already what we're doing in the library. It aligns really well. Libraries are already trusted in communities and are working with organizations to connect parents with literacy. If you can get the whole family to the library, then we know that we have a lot more resources than just things for little ones. We can help parents with job skills and later on school support once the kids are in elementary school or high school. So there are all kinds of reasons that we want to connect with parents and support them throughout their child's career and school, but also we're already in the position where we're working with people such as the schools to make a difference around literacy. And then finally, ALSC, they are in transition right now. They just have a new executive director was appointed last week who had been an interim director. And so we will be reconnecting with them, but they wrote a letter of support for the current project. And so hopefully, because this aligns so well with Every Child Ready to Read, we'll be able to offer it nationwide at the end of this grant. So just briefly, in Washtenaw County, we worked with a lot of different types of partners, from our sheriff's department that does outreach every summer to combat community violence among teens and youth, and they have a door-to-door campaign. So they were supportive of this program and used it to help get the word out to parents. We would be in the WIC office twice a month. We worked with other literacy people to get news out to new parents, and our Success by Six and Great Start Readiness programs were very instrumental as well in supporting this and helping make it a success. So some of the toolkit contents that Angie is going to show you are ways that we can share what we did to help you do the same types of activities. And by doing all of that, we were able to reach about 9% of our county's children under age 5 or 5 and under during that first period of the grant. So we knew we had developed something that was successful. It was reaching a representative group of parents from our community, and we wanted to be able to continue to offer it. And so we had to look for other sources of funding. And that is when we decided to partner with the Midwest Collaborative for Library Services, which provides services for libraries in Michigan and Indiana, which is why we are here today. And we have continued to move forward with our project. So we're going to show you a little bit more about that, but I wanted to stop for a second and see if anybody has questions right now. Okay, so I will keep moving forward, and we will look at what we did next. So when we applied for and received the IMLS National Leadership Grant, we said that we wanted to translate everything to Spanish so that we could reach a broader audience. And we wanted to take our successes and be able to share them with Michigan and Indiana libraries, and use that almost as a test, especially in Michigan, where we've already rolled out a whole year ago, so that we can have everything in order for this to be a sustainable, affordable, usable service through MCLS for libraries. And in addition, MCLS has created a new text message distribution system. So that is moved onto a platform called Twilio with a dedicated short code, which is that 5-digit phone number. And that's been tested and is working well. And they developed a website portal for libraries who sign up to use Talk to be able to schedule their event messages, manage their staff accounts, run reports and see their data. So Angie will be going into that. Angie and I have also, to help you work your way through all of these resources, there are guides and how-to videos, and High Scope this time is conducting the ongoing evaluation. And so they have already surveyed libraries in Michigan who are using Talk to see what worked and didn't. And we took that feedback and we are ready to share it with you. And so Angie is going to show you a little more detail about these tools and toolkits.
Thanks, Jody. Yeah, so on the screen here, you see what would be the home page when you log into the Talk portal. And the way you get access to the portal is when you sign up to be a Talk library, you'll get a username and password. And then from here, you can link to the toolkits, which we'll get into after I cover this page. But there's also these 3 big buttons you see, and those are the main functions you can do through the portal. The first one is to schedule the event text that Jody was talking about. You can send up to 2 a month, and you can schedule them ahead of time. So what we like to do here at Ypsilanti is when we've prepared a season of story times and events, we figure out which couple make the most sense to send to the families who have children under 6 years old. And then we schedule those to be sent at the, maybe 5 days or so before the event to remind families. And this has been a really popular feature. Families like those reminders. Another thing you can do from your portal is generate some reports. And basically what you can see is how many people have signed up in a certain time frame. You can set your beginning and end date, run the report, and it will tell you how many participants have signed up and how many children. Since some families have more than one child under age 6, they can sign up to 2. And then if you have more than one zip code in your service area, it can show you how many participants are from each of your zip codes. And then that last button that says manage accounts allows you to add other staff from your library to have staff access to this portal. And you can make some adjustments to your user accounts if your patrons ask you to make some adjustments, like maybe another child's been born and they want to add them to their account, or if they decide to stop using Talk, you can do that from here. Maybe they want to switch to a different language if they've been doing Spanish and they want to do English, or vice versa. Those are all changes you can make via this Manage Accounts button. Those are also changes that a user can do on their own through the Talk Text service. There are some keywords they can use that would allow them to do that. So there's a couple of ways that accounts can have changes made. But like I said, at the top, there's a link to something called the toolkits. And if you link to that, Jody, maybe show what it looks like if you've linked to the toolkits. There we go. So this is a Google Drive that we have added all kinds of materials that we hope will make it, very easy for you to be successful with Talk in your library. In the center of the screen, you can see the first thing is the toolkits index. Because there's so much material, we got the feedback from Michigan libraries that an index would help them find exactly what they're looking for. So we recently added the index. And then you'll see there's a 6 steps to Talk success. And that is a slideshow, very brief, that lays out what we think are the 6 most important steps. And then we go on to have a video and a guide to each of those steps. These are brief videos, average 5 minutes each, that talk about things like the promotional materials, shows you all kinds of materials and talks about how to adapt them for your library. And then there's social media, which has been an important way to spread the word about Talk. More ideas for how to find and register your users, details about sending those library messages that we've mentioned. Then there's a guide on building community partnerships. And as Jody talked about, this has been really important. You want to reach those users that you don't see at the library. So the partnerships can help you to spread Talk to many more families. And then that last guide is data and reports, how you can take the information about how Talk has grown and put that into a report format, maybe share it with your partners so they can see the impact that their partnership is having. Then back at the top of the screen, oh, just one more minute on that one. Sorry, Jody. You'll see there's a few folders. The first one is the Building Partnerships Toolkit, and this has just lots of materials that you can use to adapt to send to different types of partners. Like you'll see here, businesses, educators, medical professionals, and others. And there's letters of introduction. There are example of a memorandum of understanding, the MOUs, reports, and things like that. So lots of information about partnerships in that toolkit. And then the other toolkit is promotional materials, where we have all kinds of materials that have already been created that you can add your branding to, add your logo and library information. You can create your own materials using the logos and brand images. And you can also, for some of our materials, like our posters and bookmarks, they have ready-made. You can go ahead and enter that one, Jody, that's good. You can see there's a lot of ready-made posters here with Talk, examples of Talk messages in their bubbles. And then the first one is a blank poster. That way, if you have something that you want to put into that bubble, it's there for you to customize yourself. And all of these, as you can see, have the short code, the number that a person would text to with the word Talk, and that would allow them to start the process of signing up for Talk. So that is just a real quick look at some of our promotional materials. You might have noticed in there that they're available, many of them in both Spanish and English. We've even won an award for these materials, the John Cotton Dana Award. And the materials were developed with the help of Q&M, an ad agency in Ann Arbor. So we've looked a little bit at posters and bookmarks. Those are very popular. The promotional card was another piece that we printed in large quantities. We also have some digital materials. So you'll see in the top right of this screen, there is an image that we use for digital display. If you have like a large screen in your library to show activities, you can include talk on that. So this one's in Spanish. We also have a few English varieties. And then on the next slide, we've got some more. These are some examples of materials or messages that you would post on social media, like Facebook, Instagram. We even have an example of a TikTok video you could use if your library is doing that. We've got QR codes that you can use in lots of different ways. People got really creative with QR codes during the pandemic. I noticed it a lot. And we've even had QR codes that we put on the Little Free Library in front of our library, and we put them on our newsletters and things like that. And what else do we have in there? We've got seasonal promotional ideas. So when it's time for back to school, or during the summer, we've been very active with our farmers markets. So we've got some materials that are designed specifically with those activities in mind. We've got some swag ideas in there because we did develop some swag that we would give out when people signed up for talk, just to kind of add to the excitement of joining this program. And as we showed before, the guides and videos that are in there can help you learn how to use the promotional materials and make the most of getting the word out in your community. Then, as I mentioned, the Building Partnerships Toolkit, here's just some examples of the materials that you'll find in there. An example of a report that you could give. There's a one-page handout that explains talk to the partners that you're looking to, help spread the word with you. There's a training PowerPoint that you can use both for your own library to make sure everybody in your library understands what talk is and is able to help sign people up and spread the word, but you can also use it to train your partners and the staff in their organizations. So the more people that know about talk, the more that obviously the more people you'll have sign up. And we have really found through all the materials, while those are helpful, it's most helpful to one-on-one tell someone why this is an important program, how it's helpful to them, and even to go with them right to the web form that Jody showed and help them sign up right then. Those are the ways that we've found we can most quickly and effectively spread the word about talk. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is ways that we can support you. So we've talked about the guides and videos, and we're hoping that that makes it really clear and easy steps to get started. You don't have to do all of these things at once, but some way to let people know you have this program, and that would be your promotional materials and your social media, and just making sure your staff knows about it, and then starting to sign them up. That's really all you need to get started. But the partnerships are going to make it that much more powerful and reach that many more people. So we really encourage to be doing that as well. And then we support you. Jody and I are available for questions via email anytime. We also have a monthly newsletter that we send out, and you can get to that from the same website, thetexttolearn.com. There's a section called For Libraries, which will give you more information and FAQ, but there's also this page that has our newsletters. So we've got them linked for the past year or so. And if you go on there, that will give you more insight and information about talk as well. And then sometimes when we do Zoom trainings, we do upload the recording to there, so you can find some trainings as well. This is a map that we've been keeping to show who's involved with talk. And right now, there are 190 Michigan public libraries that have signed up. As Jody stated, anybody with a Michigan zip code can participate in talk. But if their library has signed up, then they might also receive those event messages each month telling them about specific activities in their area. But if their library hasn't signed up, a talk participant would still get the 2 messages per week with the developmental activities for their child or children. And HighScope has been working to gather data from these Michigan libraries to help us keep improving how we are administering talk and how we are spreading the word. So I did want to mention, I saw there was a question. Let me bring it back up here and I'll have Jody chime in on this as well. I see that, I think it's Dawn is asking, since I'm in a small library with minimum staff, I want to hear more about the toolkits and see if this is something we can easily and sustainably do staff time-wise. And that's definitely a question. It makes sense, and we do get that. And Jody can talk about a Washtenaw County library in a similar situation, but I'll just say that one of the things I've found is you can incorporate talk to what you're already doing. So if you're signing a family up for the summer reading program and they have a child 6 and under, you can take a couple of more minutes and sign them up for talk. Or same thing if you have the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program, or just any time that you do story times, if you just let people know about it, it just takes, another minute to make that announcement during a story time for this age group. So while maybe you don't have the staff to go and be present in other places in the community and spreading talk, definitely in your library, there would be lots of opportunities as a course of your regular interaction with families. But Jody, do you want to say more about that?
No, I think the same thing. So you're probably, like Angie said, after the story time, if there's somebody on desk, you can refer people to stop at the desk and get signed up. It's especially effective for us because we have short story time seasons with breaks, and it's a way to say, hey, you can keep working on your child's literacy while we're on a story time break if you sign up for these activity suggestions. And then you'll know when story times start back up because we'll send you a reminder. Also, if you're already working with the schools, it's easy to ask them to share the flyer digitally with the parents. If your school district also serves preschool students, then that's an audience that making a stop at the school to talk to staff and tell them about the program, do like a 5-minute staff presentation and get them excited about it. Then parents can the teachers will tell the parents at the student conferences or hang the flyers up or send them home in the backpack. So if you can get other people to help you spread the word, then it's really only taking your time at the school, 5 minutes, and then hopefully you'll reach a lot more people. So that's the way that we were able to make it successful, was like targeting who we were going to tell, who could then tell other people. So early on, they tell their clients when they make home visits in our county, and the early Head Start programs, things like that are already reaching parents that you want to reach. If you can convince the staff that work directly with those parents that this is valuable, then it doesn't really take you that much time.
Jody, somebody asked, can staff actually register patrons or do they have to do it themselves? And I'll just answer that it can go either way. So if someone from their own phone texts the word talk to the short code, the 75547, then staff isn't involved at all. And it just is an automated interaction that the patron or the person signing up has. But you can sign people up. I do this often from the desk. If someone is interested, I'll say to them, would you like me to sign you up right now? And I'll show them on the screen how it's just, very limited information that we need. Basically just, their zip code, the birth date of their child, and their cell phone number, as Jody showed before. And then the difference when the sign up is from this form, whether it's, a staff person doing it or the patron doing it themselves, is that they'll get a message saying, do you want to do this? They have to kind of opt in and authenticate. And that message has to be responded to within 4 hours. That doesn't happen if they sign themselves up, just by texting the short code, because it's obvious that they're initiating it. But when it's done from the web form, there is that extra step. So when I sign someone up, if they say, oh yeah, go ahead, sign me up, and I'll say, okay, you're going to need to respond to this message right away. And usually they pull their phone out right there and do it at that moment. So that's kind of the two main ways that you could sign somebody up. And it's fine for staff to do that. Because as you see, we don't really ask for any, very personal information or identifying information.
And if anybody ever has a question about that, here under for parents on the frequently asked questions, there's like a privacy policy. It tells them how to opt out, and they can get information that way so that they can feel confident. Oh, here's the privacy policy is under about, but then it says what we're doing with the information that is collected and how it's stored on a secure server at the MCLS facility. So if they ever had a question about that. But also, as Angie was saying, if you use this form, if you have a hotspot and you're on an outreach visit, you can definitely sign people up directly anywhere you are in the community, anything that has internet connection or data.
Jody, we've got a couple more questions. Beth asked us to speak about the creation of text messages. Do you need to create and send the tip text messages, or are those pulled from a database and automatically sent separate from the library event text? So why don't I have you go over that?
Yeah, that the first slide that I showed that was kind of like the continuum, the parent, when they sign up with the child's birth date, that's going to drop them somewhere on the continuum. And then that just starts and they continue getting the messages automatically 2 times a week until their child turns 6. And then at age 6, they get a message that congratulations, you're ready for kindergarten, visit your local library for more resources for older kids. And so those are going out automatically, and libraries don't do anything with that. Already parents anywhere in Indiana and Michigan can sign up. And so they could be receiving these messages automatically twice a week, even if there are no libraries near them that are participating. And the benefit for the library to promote is that you also get to then communicate twice a month with the people near you that are using the service to give them the additional benefit of everything else the library has to offer.
And Jody, the other question is if Indiana libraries can go ahead and sign up their libraries at this time.
Yes, so I'll show you on this text-to-learn.com site under for libraries. If you don't go to the newsletter, then there are some frequently asked questions that you can get answers. But also if you use this button and sign up, it says sign up and questions, because if you're not quite ready, but you think maybe, but you want to ask us a question, you can do it through this form as well. And so you'll just fill out the information. You should put the email that you want as the primary account email from your library when you sign up, because you can add other accounts later, but you'll want somebody, whatever email at your library should be the primary account to be there. It's a pretty simple form. As soon as we get this, we will MCLS staff create your account for you. And then Angie and I will send you a welcome email with more information, and we'll add you to the talk newsletter listserv so that you'll get the monthly newsletters as well as all the upcoming training opportunities that we're offering. So does anybody else have questions right now before we go on? Well, I'm going to look a little bit at what else is involved for Indiana libraries, but we are nearing the end of the presentation. But if you have a question right now about any of the toolkits or anything, feel free to ask that. Okay. So we've already mentioned this, but High Scope has been doing this evaluation. They're looking at the inputs, which are all the things that we've created, the trainings, the webinars, the toolkits, knowing that that's what libraries are going to use to be successful. And that if libraries are successful, then families will be signed up. And the next step of their evaluation is to start doing a family perception evaluation to see the families are making use of these and if they find them useful. We did a similar survey 2 years ago at the end of the previous grant, but we're hoping to be able to confirm and back up the data with what we learned in the first round. And HighScope will continue to monitor how these toolkits are working for libraries so that we can use this year and remaining grant funds to improve them if needed, so that when we offer this, because part of our proposal to IMLS was that this whole system will be available to libraries anywhere, and whether that's through MCLS with the plans they're developing or just all the content to create their own system in other states, that's all going to be accessible. So we want to make sure that it's ready to go. And that's what we're going to be looking at this final year of our grant in year 3. So for Indiana, our grant runs through the end of July. And during that time period, you would have free access to everything, and all users in Indiana will be receiving the messages at no cost. After that, MCLS is developing a tiered model. It has 2 tiers in their development pricing model, and it's based on the cost of the text messages you would actually send to caregivers. So if you only have a few people signed up, you wouldn't be paying for anything but those messages that are going to your users. And then it costs a certain amount to pay for that short code and for MCLS to maintain the system. And that is going to be divided across all of the libraries who are using it, whether they're in Indiana, Michigan, or beyond, if we start expanding after that. And it's fairly affordable though. When we saw the estimates from MCLS, it's somewhere between like $5 and $10 per user per year. So if you had 10 parents using it and you're a small library, it would be $100 or something like that. The final numbers, they can't completely anticipate what it will be because it depends on how many libraries sign up and how many users there are, because it goes down per user the more people that are participating. But that, as soon as we get more information, we'll be sharing it with libraries. But through the end of July, it's going to be free. All of the support, the guides, revisions that need to happen to the guides so that it's in tip-top shape at the end of the grant, and all of the Zoom and phone conversations on request that Angie and I can provide. All of that's through that time. So it gives you that many months to get going and see if it's something that you want to use in the long term, or build some users so that you can, you have that little bit of buffer time to experiment with it before then. And does anybody have any questions based on that before we finish up and talk about the upcoming training to get more information about launching in your community and navigating all those toolkits? Because the next webinar will be about an hour, and we have it scheduled for January, and we'll just be walking people through in detail the 6 steps so that you can get going efficiently and with our support. And will the recording be sent out? Beth is planning to send the recording. And if you need to have the slides, we have the slides available if you need to share them with other people at your library.
I can send the slide link out with resources also if you'd like, Jody.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's kind of a combination between youth staff being the ones that are passionate about it and want to share the information about early literacy. And then it's also like a marketing tool. And so we have some libraries who run this through their promotional department because they're the ones that are sending out the event notifications. So it's kind of up to your library, how many staff you have, how you're going to make it work, and who all is going to have access to the account.
Do we have any other questions about this? Please let us know in the chat.
We're just really, we've had great success with it. It's been something that, we want to maintain and keep going because the people in our community have really appreciated it. And it's such a good way to be able to take, to kind of be the leader of early literacy in your community, because it's a tool that you can use to say, to approach the school district and say, this is what we're offering, and this is all you need to do. And parents can get their help to help parents get their kids ready for school. And I don't know, the parents love getting the event notifications and library notifications. If they happen to see it like on a bus or a flyer and sign up, then you're making connections with people you didn't see before who might come in for story times and then benefit. So it's just been a really great way to connect people with the library and with tips for school readiness. So we're really happy to be able to share it and hope that it's useful. And Angie and I are really excited to be able to offer support and through July, because we are happy to talk to anybody at any time about how to make it work at your library. You don't have all the other libraries in Washtenaw County were smaller than us, and they were able to still build partnerships and reach people in their communities as well. So.
Right. We have a question from Jean. They say, this sounds so great. Is there any way that grants will be available as the program goes forward?
So from our end, part of this was passing it off to MCLS to maintain it. I do know in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, they've been exploring grant funding so that they could buy all the promotional materials and really push it heavily. So I would think that the cost of it is so low that you might have local funding that would be able to give you a $500 grant would go a really long way in terms of paying for this for multiple years and buying the flyers or bookmarks or whatever you choose to have printed professionally. So I think that would probably be one way. I don't anticipate that there's going to be a large grant to move forward beyond this, because we're kind of, transitioning it to something that can be sustained by MCLS.
Right. And on the Indiana state level, we don't have any plans right now, but we might, we'll see what the interest level is. And we'll just have to see, because I could see potentially maybe some LSTA, but I'm not certain without talking to the LSTA office here.
Yeah, and hopefully it's affordable enough. I don't anticipate, that's kind of what the nice thing about it is that per person, it's just really not that expensive. And I know library budgets already, you're paying for all the databases and other things, but hopefully it's going to be affordable for people going forward.
All right. I'm just going to reiterate real quick that I will be sending out the recording, and that will take a little bit of time for me to have ready for you, but I'll send it out as soon as I can. I'll also send out your LEU certificates if you request them using the link I'm going to put into the chat right now for those who are attending live today. If you're watching the recording, you'll need to have someone at your library create that certificate for you following the LEU policies rules. And then I will also send out all of the resources to those of you who registered, who are here today. And they'll also be posted with the recording on the State Library's website. So all of those things will be available to you. And yeah, I do have one other question for you. So we aren't doing that follow-up webinar until January. So if any libraries want to sign up now, and they have questions, they can just contact you.
Yes, Angie is actually going to be doing 2 short versions of the webinar that we'll offer in January. Just for Michigan libraries, we periodically offer something called Kickstart Talk in your community, and it goes over kind of like the first 3 steps of the 6 steps. And she has 2 of those scheduled for November. So if you click that sign up button, then when we send you the welcome to talk email, the links to those Zooms will be included.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions out there? I'm curious to know if you could tell me in the chat, like if you feel like your library, like you're leaning towards wanting to do this program, or you can also let us know if you're considering it, but need, of course, to check. Great, Kim. Which library are you at, Kim? Covington, right. That's great. Absolutely, Kara, makes sense. Needs to talk to people at their library. Absolutely, Rhonda. Now, do keep in mind, the smaller you are, obviously, the smaller your budget probably is. But on the plus side, you also have less folks who would likely sign up for it because you have less population. So it's like a, you know, a sliding scale there, kind of.
And I will say the only thing that looks really nice professionally printed are the bookmarks, but you can print those in-house. There's so much digital advertising that you don't have to pay anything for. I think everybody got used to COVID sharing things with the school electronically. So there doesn't have to be too much overhead, and you can print all those materials. You can like put them in Publisher, put your library's logos and print them without ever like spending anything on promotional materials as well.
Jody, in the links that you gave Beth to share with participants, does it include a link to the toolkit? Do you know? I was just thinking that people can look around at those materials even if they haven't signed up yet, right? The toolkits are.
Yeah, I didn't send that, but we can share that as well. I can grab it right now.
Okay.
Oops, not that far
Great.
back though.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording as you continue to do that. But I want to say thank you so much, Jody and Angie, for sharing this information with us. I think it's a wonderful program. It lines up so well with Every Child Ready to Read and all the efforts that we're trying to make in our states for early literacy. And so we appreciate you sharing this opportunity with us. So I'm going to stop the recording